Welcome back to MADMAN Review. The cacophony of arguments surrounding gun control in the United States often reaches a fever pitch, with the anti-gun progressivist libtards trying to seize our guns and us laughing at their futile attempts, all thanks to the new Bruen standard. Amidst all this nonsense, it's fun to take a look at guns that most of us would sooner buy a unicorn than own. I'm talking about guns that elicit raised eyebrows, incredulous laughter, and the collective sentiment of, why the hell would anyone buy that? From time to time, there are innovative souls among us who craft guns with the best of intentions, but just didn't have the aesthetic sense we gun aficionados have. There are also those who craft guns for no other reason besides novelty and end up making guns that look cool, but turn out to be complete junk. Here's my list of the top 7 list of guns that Americans will never buy. Number 7, Glock 37. The Glock 37 holds a peculiar place in the realm of Glocks, and it's not just due to its historical context. If you're lucky, you might stumble upon a deal for a used Glock 37 bundled with 1,000 rounds of 45 GAP ammunition, priced around $850. Now, that's a hefty tag for a used Glock, making it instantly overpriced. However, being a Glock, one can expect reliability without question. So, what lands it on our list of guns Americans would never buy? The answer lies in its chambering, the 45 GAP. For our younger readers, you might be scratching your heads wondering what on earth that is. Developed at the behest of Glock around 2002, the 45 GAP aimed to replicate the ballistics of the beloved 45 ACP in a compact frame pistol. Essentially, it was like a shorter version of the 45 ACP, coined as the 45 short, intended to carry on the American love affair with the 45 caliber. The idea seemed promising, but alas, it never quite caught on. Simply put, Americans weren't interested in having a 45 caliber option that wasn't a 1911. Back in the early 2000s, the choices were clear-cut. You either shot 9mm or 40 S&W out of a plastic gun, or wielded a 1911 to fire 45 ACP. Striker-fired pistols hadn't yet achieved the market dominance they enjoy today, and where I lived, Glocks were a rare sight. While they were making waves in the law enforcement market, civilian shooters still had a strong preference for the classic 1911 or the versatile 9mm, but rarely both. Number 6, Alchemy Arms Spectre. In 2006, Alchemy Arms embarked on a mission to settle the eternal debate by introducing the Spectre, a semiotic pistol chambered in 45 ACP, drawing inspiration from 2 iconic pistol designs, the M1911 and the Glock. The Spectre aimed to find its unique place in the market, however, it faced a series of challenges that ultimately led to its demise. The Spectre's aesthetics and functionality borrowed elements from both the Colt M1911 and Glock pistols. Although no parts were interchangeable with the M1911, certain components like the slide, barrel, and recoil spring could be swapped with select Glock models. But unlike Glocks, the Spectre was promoted as the fastest pistol on the market, boasting 5 separate safety systems. So, why does the Spectre find itself on this list? Well, from the beginning, the gun encountered quality control and reliability issues. Some models proved to be unreliable, with reports indicating that certain types of ammunition worked better than others. Furthermore, there were instances where the gun was shipped with only 1 magazine or, in some cases, no magazine at all. Obtaining magazines for the Spectre also posed a challenge, with shooters having to resort to modifying their own, which was far from ideal. With a price tag of $799, the Spectre was significantly more expensive than a standard Glock. Considering that both Glocks and 1911s are renowned for their relatively short and light triggers, the Spectre fell short in this regard, featuring a heavy and rather long striker-fired trigger, a far cry from its competitors' impressive triggers. While Glocks and 1911s enjoyed substantial popularity, the Spectre seemed to be caught in a middle, lacking enough Glock-like features to entice Glock owners, and failing to capture the hearts of 1911 enthusiasts with its insufficient 1911-like characteristics. In its attempt to be both, The Spectre found itself in the unfortunate position of not fully satisfying either camp, which is why nobody wanted it. Number 5. Taurus Curve. In 2014, the introduction of the Taurus Curve elicited two general reactions. Some saw it as a novel concept, while others deemed it as an ambitious endeavor with flawed execution. When it comes to compactness and reliability, guns chambered in 380 ACP like the Ruger LCP, C-Camp LWS 380, and Smith & Wesson Bodyguard reign supreme. Taurus aimed to push the boundaries of pocket guns with the Taurus Curve 380. However, it failed to make a significant impact, especially now that Ruger's LCP Max stands as the undisputed king of 380 ACP pocket guns. One distinctive feature of the Curve was its lack of snag hazards. It lacked traditional sights, with the only notable high point being the loaded chamber indicator positioned just behind the breech. Taurus compensated for the absence of sights by painting a white crosshair on the rear side of the slide. The pistol came equipped with an integral laser-light combination laser and light position forward on the trigger guard. Activated by a knurled button on the right side of the pistol, the system operated on battery power. The barrel of the Curve was rounded to conform to the slide's curvature. The grip only allowed for a 2-finger hold, and the magazine featured a base plate that formed a lip which could catch on the inside of the grip. To release the magazines, one had to pinch the base plate to remove them. Employing a Browning-style locked breech system, the Curve locked the barrel to the slide when in battery. Due to the absence of a safety mechanism, it relied on a long double-action trigger pull to fire. However, the gun suffered from major reliability issues, including light primer strikes, failure to feed, and stovepipes. Moreover, the majority of Americans thought it was hideous because of its curves. A few years later, Taurus quietly discontinued the product, marking the end of the Curve's underwhelming journey. Number 4. USFA Zip 22. The USFA Zip 22, brought to market by the U.S. Firearms Manufacturing Company, USFA, in 2013, was a semi-automatic pistol chambered in .22 long rifle. Although initially praised for its innovative concept, affordability, and accuracy, it faced a barrage of criticism due to frequent mechanical failures, including feeding and ejection issues. These reliability concerns led to the commercial failure of the Zip 22, ultimately contributing to USFA's demise in 2017. Sporting a futuristic polymer frame with a distinctive box-like shape, the Zip 22 featured 2 holes for the trigger and the shooter's middle finger, along with a flat butt plate for hand support. Its simple notch and blade sights were complemented by the use of Ruger 10-22 removable magazines, with a default capacity of 10 rounds. However, the firearm's design flaw drew significant backlash. To chamber a new round, shooters had to push 2 trapezoidal bars located near the muzzle, which necessitated placing their hands perilously close to the barrel, creating a risk of accidental discharge. The Zip 22 aimed to offer modularity, allowing shooters to customize their experience. Its receiver was designed as the foundation for a modular weapon system featuring various drop-in expansions. These included enhanced sights with phosphorescent properties, a Picatinny or scope rail for optics attachment, and the intriguing option of mounting the Zip 22 underneath a rifle for additional firepower. The concept even flirted with the possibility of converting the Zip 22 into a rifle by adding a carbine stock and suppressor, although these plans never materialized. The introduction of the Zip 22 is accompanied by a viral marketing stunt with a YouTube video titled Unidentified Firing Object, showcasing the gun's capabilities at a shooting range. However, the firearm's reliability issues overshadowed the marketing campaign, and as with most other guns on this list, it was ugly as sin, so nobody wanted it. Number 3. Cobra Terminator. The Cobra Terminator, designed in the mid-1980s, was a big hunk of junk. With only 1,452 units produced, it was an unconventional shotgun resembling a rudimentary zip gun. The Terminator wasn't too different from handmade firearms, with metal pipes and a nail serving as a firing pin, though it had a spring and a trigger mechanism. It could be considered an open bolt operating system assembled in reverse. Instead of a forward-moving bolt striking the cartridge's base with an integrated firing pin, a backward-moving bolt would hit a fixed firing pin with the base of the cartridge. However, the Terminator didn't have a bolt. Everything done by the bolt was carried out by the barrel itself. Operating it involved pushing in a locking latch that interacted with the loading port and pushing the operating handle forward to cock the weapon, then to the right to lock it into a recess, effectively preventing the movement of the barrel. A shell could then be loaded through the loading port into the breech. To fire, the operating handle was pushed back to the left to enable its travel, a catch located in the lower part of the action engaged with the base of the shell, keeping the barrel in the forward position. Pulling the trigger lowered this latch, allowing the tension spring to force the barrel assembly backward, causing the shell to strike the firing pin. Terminator possessed an extractor but lacked an ejector. Despite claims of utilizing a blow-forward mechanism for automatic extraction, the weapon required manual opening of the action to extract spent casings. Terminator had an extremely uncomfortable collapsible welded, stamped steel stock due to the backward movement of the bolt contributing to felt recoil. Even with lighter loads, firing it was unpleasant. Because nobody could think of practical scenarios in which it could be deemed useful, nobody wanted it. These days, only collectors buy it. Number 2, Dardic Gun. In the 1950s, the U.S. military conducted experiments to explore alternative feeding mechanisms for machine guns. During these trials, researchers made an intriguing discovery. When triangular cartridge casings were stacked in a magazine, they occupied nearly 50% less space than traditional round casings. Although this finding held great promise, military did not pursue or expand upon this unconventional design. Around the same time, inventor David Dardick saw the potential in the triangular concept and founded the Dardick Corporation in Hamden, Connecticut. This innovative design combined elements of hybrid revolver and a magazine-fed pistol. Depending on the specific model, the open-chambered firearms featured an internal fixed magazine that could hold either 10, 11, 15, or 20 triangular cartridges, which Dardick called trounds, triangular rounds. The Model 1100 was exclusively chambered for 38 Dardick trounds. The Model 1500, however, offered versatility with interchangeable barrels that could accommodate 38, 30, and 22 trounds, and came in barrel lengths of either 4 or 6 inches. The trounds were made of an extruded plastic called Celini Fortiflex, featuring a metal primer pocket, primer powder, and a .38 caliber projectile. Additionally, a .22 long rifle casing and barrel were available, with the .22 casing allowing a standard .22 long rifle cartridge to be inserted into its center. A switch on the hammer enabled the firearm to function in rimfire mode when the .22 long rifle barrel was installed. Between the 1958 and 1962, fewer than 100 Dardick revolvers were manufactured. Despite the revolutionary design of the triangular rounds and the firearms themselves, the Dardick's demise was ultimately attributed to its unfortunate aesthetics, which the majority of American handgun enthusiasts found unappealing. Additionally, the plastic cartridges tended to warp over time, resulting in improper chambering and causing the cylinder to lock up during rotation. Number 1, Enfield L85A1. Number 1 on this list is the absolute worst gun that no American gun aficionado worth his salt would ever buy. It's the Enfield L85A1, a British-made rifle that, true to British fashion, was plagued with numerous issues. The L85A1 was developed in the late 1960s at the Royal Small Arms Factory in Enfield, with the first prototype models tested in 1976. Following seemingly successful trials, the L85A1 was adopted by the British Army in 1984. Approximately 320,000 rifles were produced between then and 1994, ultimately replacing the L1A1. The L85A1 features a bullpup layout and operates on gas with selective fire capabilities. Its design bears similarities to the American Armalite AR-18. The bullpup layout was chosen to enhance the overall compactness of the weapon. It was built with good intentions, but the L85A1 was plagued with issues, rendering it unreliable and challenging to maintain. The bullpup configuration required additional moving parts in the firing mechanism compared to a standard rifle. This increased the risk of malfunctions and significantly raised its price compared to an AR-15. In 1985, the German company Heckler & Koch, owned by BAE Systems at the time, was contracted to perform subcontract work for training ammunition. They were provided with 2 rifles for this purpose. Surprisingly, despite the L85A1 having been in service for a year by then, the German company discovered that the rifle would discharge if dropped, a dangerous safety flaw that the British had failed to address. So it had to be redesigned. Furthermore, the L85A1 was initially designed to chamber the small 485mm round. However, the United States, through NATO, advocated for a switch from 762mm ammunition to the 5.56, as they had an abundance of the latter left over from the Vietnam War. NATO decided to adopt the 5.56, leading to the need for another redesign of the L85A1. This created further challenges as the rifle's already mismatched components became even more difficult to accommodate. The L85A1 performed so poorly that no self-respecting shooter, American or not, will ever buy one. In fact, the British themselves hate it so much that they commissioned Gaston to develop a Glock AR-15 as a potential replacement for their standard issue L85A1. We covered it in another video.